morning everyone. So today I'm going to be doing a full tutorial on the Fisherman Throw. I've actually got a lot of requests for this, especially for the last row, which can be a little complicated. So there's just one thing I want to mention before we get started. This pattern is written with a worsted weight yarn, but the one that I used was Loops and Threads Tweed Big, and it's quite thick. So what I have here is a regular worsted weight. And then this was a sample of the one that I used because I can't actually find it anywhere. And then this is a bulky yarn. So you can see here, hopefully you can see that the bulky yarn is almost the same size as the big tweed. So if you need to substitute, go to a bulky yarn, or if you're using a regular worsted weight yarn, you may need to go down to an 8mm hook, in which case the stitch count isn't going to work. So what you're going to want to do is just crochet your initial chain to the size that you want, and make sure that for this stitch it's a multiple of 2. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. I'm just going to put everything that you need up here on the screen, and you can get that all together and then start to follow along with me starting now. Okay, so if you're following along with the pattern, we're going to be making a 40 by 60 throw. That actually includes the fringe as well. So what we're going to be doing is chaining 94. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to chain 12, which will keep it a multiple of 2, but everything else will remain the same. If you're just starting out, maybe you want to follow along with me and do 12 just until you get used to the stitch, because 94 is a lot of stitches to work with. Okay, so we're just going to do the slip knot and chain, for you 94, for me 12.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Okay, so now that we've finished our beginning chain, no matter what the count, we're going to be working a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. And then these first 3 chains are going to become our first double crochet. So we're just going to double crochet. Oh. And then we're going to be chaining 1 and skipping the next chain. Then work a double crochet into the chain beside the chain you just skipped, and then chain 1 again, chain 1, skip this chain, and work in the next. Chain 1, skip this chain here, and double crochet in the next. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way to the end. Chain 1, and I'm at the end. I'm going to skip the second last chain and double crochet into the very last chain. So for you, that will be in your 90th stitch. Okay, so now that you're at the end, you'll have 91 stitches, and that's because, if you recall, the very first one that we did counted as your first double crochet. So the last thing that we're going to do at the end of the row here is just chain 2 and turn our work, and that chain 2 is going to count as the first half double crochet of this row. Okay, so we're turning our work, and then we're going to start working into our foundation chain again. So we're going to work a double crochet into that chain that we initially skipped in the first row, and pull it up to the height of that half double crochet. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1 again. We're going to skip over the double crochet we made, and we're going to work back into that foundation chain with a double crochet. Just going to work in there. Pull that stitch up to the height of the other ones. Chain 1 again. Skip over the double crochet. And actually, I just want to mention very quickly, this is sometimes people go in behind this stitch and they end up with something that looks like 2 rows. You want to make sure that you're working over in front of that chain. So we're going to skip the double crochet again, work in front of that chain stitch into the foundation chain, and make another double crochet. And you're going to continue that pattern all the way along until the end. So you can pause the video and I'll meet up with you and show you how to work the end of this row. Okay, so now that we're at the end of our row, we're going to skip the second last stitch and then work a half double crochet into that last stitch there, which I struggle with sometimes, so you can actually just work it into the space if you want. And we're working that half double crochet. And then we're going to chain 2 and turn again. Okay, so that chain 2 again counts as the half double crochet, and we are working on row 3 now. So we are going to work a double crochet into the first skip stitch under the chain. So this is your chain here, and this is your double crochet that you're going to work into. Okay, we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip over this double crochet made here, and we're going to work under the chain 1 space into this double crochet here. And this is going to be the same pattern all the way along. In fact, this is your repeat row for the rest of the pattern, so you can keep working this. Chain 1, skip over that double crochet and work into the stitch under your chain stitch, which is that double crochet from the row below. Okay, so you can just work that along, and then I can meet up with you at the end of your row again. Okay, so we are going to be, again, skipping over the second last stitch and working into this chain here, which counts as your first half double crochet. So again, I'm going to work into the space because it's easier than working into the stitch. So you can choose if you want to work into the chain or the space, but it works out well no matter what you do. So you are going to be repeating that for 74 rows. I wouldn't bother counting. I would just keep measuring your throw until it gets to the length that you want. So you can pause the video here, and then I'm going to show you how to finish off your final row, because this is where people have the most questions. So let's just pretend that this is row 74, and I am going to just chain 1 for row 74, because this is where we start to close the holes. So I chained 1, and then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to be working a single crochet right into that space, and that's going to help to fill up that hole. And then still working within this space, I'm going to work a double crochet into the stitch below. And by working those 2 stitches in that chain 1 space, you can see how we've now closed this gap here. Okay, so this is the hole, and then this is how we close it. So you do a single crochet, and then you work a double crochet into the double crochet below. Okay, and you want to work those 2 stitches to keep the stitch count the same, because the chain 1 counts as a stitch. Okay, so you hear my dog growling. We got major snow here, and everybody now is just surfacing and walking their dogs and whatnot. Okay, so single crochet, and then a double crochet, oh goodness, in the stitch below. So I'm going to do that to the end, which actually I'll just do right now. Single crochet and double crochet, and then what we're going to do is just end with a half double crochet in that end stitch there. Okay, and that is your final row done, and you can see that all these holes are closed now. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is just fasten off. and snip our yarn. And I like to wait until my fringe is done to weave in the ends. But I was going to just mention, if you're going to go ahead and weave in your ends, you're going to have probably a bunch of areas where you've joined. You want to pull all the ends through to one side before you weave them in, and then theoretically that's going to become the wrong side of the afghan. However, once everything's woven in, you're really not going to see them. So the next thing that we're going to do is our fringe, and in the pattern I have to cut 16 inches. It seems pretty long, but you're going to be folding it over, and then you're also going to be trimming a little bit off at the end to make sure it's nice and straight. I'm going to include the fringe in this because not everybody knows how to do one, and as my friend Barbara told me through an email, when you're just beginning, even things like a fringe, it helps if you're shown. So thank you, Barbara. If you want to go ahead and get your fringe ready, you can either cut them all at once or as you go. Usually what I do is I find like a big piece of cardboard or something to wrap them around, and then that just makes it easier to cut. So you would just keep, let's pretend my hand is cardboard, you would just keep running it around like this. And you don't want to overlap, because what happens if you overlap, you're essentially making a pom-pom. The pieces are going to get longer and longer. But you could just wrap it around like that, cut one end, and then you'll have your fringe left. Okay. So let's pretend that there's 4 of these here. What you're going to do is just fold them in half and insert your hook and space them out however you want. You may want less than me or more than me. All you're going to do is insert your hook onto your 3 or 4 pieces of yarn, pull it through, and then you have this loop here, and you're just going to reach through, grab your tails, and bring them through like that. I don't pull mine too tight, because then what happens is you start to open up this hole here, and to me it looks prettier when your knot's a bit bigger, but that's a personal choice. So you're going to do that. I think I did mine every other row. Actually, just grab it. I got my afghan right here, and you can actually see, or my throw, this has been very well loved since I've made it. Oh, my TV just went on random. Okay. And yes, I did mine every other stitch. So this is mine here. See, you can see how pilled it is. Or maybe you can't. How sad. I really need to make another one, and I actually bought some velvet yarn to do that with. Just need to get that done. So you're just going to do that all the way along, weave in your ends, and that is it. I think that's everything I need to cover with this. If I've missed anything or you need other information, post a comment below and let me know, and I'll try and help you out with whatever you're stuck with.
So that's it for today, and thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. If you found it helpful or enjoyable, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and you might want to subscribe to my channel so that you get any new videos I do into your home feed. Thank you so much, and keep cozy till next time. Bye-bye.